Hi guys, David Mulgrew here, and welcome to part 5 of learning GitHub. We're going to deviate a little bit from GitHub Desktop for now, and we're going to talk a little bit about project management tools. The whole point of learning GitHub Desktop is to get you to a point where you can use version control and collaborate within a team. Now, at some point, very soon after learning to collaborate, like getting together with a team, you're going to need some tools to help you manage a team. There are lots of ways to do this. So we're going to take a look at Git's built-in project management tools. Now, they do exist slightly separately to a GitHub repository itself. So you can see I'm looking at Overscoped. This is the demonstration repository I made for the previous video. There's a projects tab. I'm going to click on it. Let's have a look. Now, technically, I could have multiple projects which have got their own teams assigned to the same repository. For most small projects, you're going to have one repository and then you're going to assign one team. So I'm going to hit create project, or new project rather. Now, there are lots of different options here. It's got templates and you can customize all of these in a huge amount of ways. I'm going to use the team planning. In fact, let's go Kanban. Let's go Kanban because it's relatively well known. I'm going to hit create project. So we've got the name of the project up top. I'm going to hit the edit and I'm going to name it Overscoped Project. Or, Overscoped Team Planning. And I cannot stop putting the double capitals. So I'm going to hit save, and we got Overscope Team Planning. Bear in mind that is not the same name as the repository. It is a separate entity to the repository. And if I go and manage access, I am the only person with access to this because I created it. It does not contain the same collaborators that are part of the repository. If you want them to all be the same, you have to add them because it is a separate thing. And I'm going to just search in the box for one of my teammates, and I'm going to hit invite. And I will do this for basically everyone on the project. Once they're added, because I've associated this with the Overscoped repository, when I go back to the project tab on here, it appears here. And they will be able to access it through here. There are other ways you can access it, but accessing it through the repository once it's paired is just an easy to find location. So you'll notice here we have lots of tabs along the top. I might mention some of what these do, but let me be very clear. For most small teams, the 5 tabs we have now are everything you are going to need. This is it. Now, you can make an argument for more complex team tools, but this will cover 90% of what your team needs. Unless you have a very large team, unless you have very big, very complex projects, for most teams and most small projects, these 5 boards will be enough. So they split the project into 5 categories. Now, I'm not a fan of the first 2 columns because I feel like, particularly in small stuff, they're essentially the same thing. My tendency is to put everything in ready. And for a small project, that's usually what you're going to do. The point of ready is this is something on my to-do list. It needs doing. So I'm going to go down to the bottom and click add item, make YouTube video part 5. So you can argue interpretation of these amongst your team, but to me, ready means anyone on the team can come along and pick this up. Backlog means we are deliberately excluding this until other things in the ready list are done. So when I come and look at this, I am going to pick up a job out of the ready list. I am going to ignore the backup list for the large part. The backlog is essentially to identify these are things we know we're going to need to do, but we are deliberately delaying them. So before I move this around too much, I'm going to click on it and show you a couple of the little features we've got on it. We can edit it and we can put a description. So I can do record video with OBS and upload to YouTube and share with my team. I give a little bit more information about what this job entails, and we'll update comment. You see, we've also got assignees, and this is quite useful. You won't necessarily always assign a job. Sometimes you leave stuff in the column and just leave them for any team member who's got a free afternoon to pick up. Other times at a team meeting, you might decide, okay, Big Mom Mulgrew is doing this one. So I'm going to check the box, and that is now assigned. You'll notice over here, it is now assigned to me. You can change the priority. These are useful for filtering. Again, becomes much more useful on a large project. And you can change the size. Again, it's useful for filtering, not mandatory. The assign it to a person, give it a description, give it a title, will cover 90% of what you need for a team project. So when you start a job, literally drag and drop, put it in the progress column. What this does is it tells the rest of your team, I have started this thing. This is incredibly important, especially for jobs that are not assigned to a specific person. If I have a job that is unassigned and I go, okay, I've got 4 hours free. I'm going to do one of the tasks. If I pick that up from the ready list, but I leave it in the ready list, someone else can come along and start it. This board is about communicating and making sure you don't waste time. If you have free time to work on a job that you've not already been assigned, looking at this should be the first thing you do, but make sure you update it, right? So when I've completed my task and I've made my pull requests and I'm waiting for it to be checked over, I'm going to move it into in review. Now, that's my involvement done unless it gets rejected. Now, if it gets rejected, my project lead is going to drop it back to in progress, and they will hopefully send me a message saying, hey, do a thing, this needs to. Usually you will get comments within GitHub, but it would be nice if they get a Teams message or something like that. So they'll kick it back to in progress, and we'll go back and forth between in review until they're happy with it. When they're happy with it, your team lead is the one that will finally put it in done, and you are happy. And that's basically it. That's what you need for a team project. Unless you've got a very complex or very big, this is it. Now we'll have a glance at some of the other boards. I do want to show you a few things. One of my favorites is a roadmap. So you'll notice if we take a look, if I go back to the boards, and I edit this thing, there is a start date and an end date. So if I do the start date as today, and I do the end date as next week, if I now go to the roadmap, you will see it appears, so I get a visual indicator of which bits need to be done at what time. And this can be very useful if you want to get a sort of visualized flow of which piece of work are going to be done in what order. Again, the complexity of project will determine how useful these tools are. There are some tabs here that are just preset filters, like my items, the in review tab, priorities to sort of filter things by a particular priority. The backlog tab is generally what most people are going to want to look at. And that's essentially, like I say, I could spend a full 40-hour course just talking about how to configure different project setups and how to use different project management tools. But seriously, these boards will do 90% of what you need. So use them, share them with your team. Have this on screen when you have your morning meeting with everyone and you're assigning tasks. Hope that's helpful. Any questions, drop them below the video and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.